this is going to be one of our famous informal videos addressing some questions and comments we've gotten about the SP 8x10 film processing tray. So one of the questions we've gotten is, people have asked, well, should I get the tray or should I get the tank? Should I get the SP445 film tank? Well, obviously, if you're going to do anything larger than 4x5, you have to get the tray. But there might be some reasons to consider the tray, even if you're only going to do 4x5. First of all, the tray, and this is subjective, but the tray is a little easier to load, provided you have a darkroom to load it in. If you're working in a changing bag or a changing box, the tank is going to be far easier to manipulate and handle inside that confined space. Now, it also will the tank takes up a lot less space in your darkroom. Now, the advantage of the tray is you can actually get away with less chemistry. We've had people use as little as 200 milliliters of developer and had good results. I think they're being kind of a cheapskate. I prefer to use about 300 as my minimum, though you can put up to a full liter of chemical in there if you want to. Now, a couple other reasons, actually 3 other reasons you may want to consider the tray instead of the tank for 4x5. One, if you're going to do glass plates, like Jason Lane's glass plates, we offer plate holders for the tank, but they only will hold, you can only fit 2 plates in the tank at a time, where with the tray, you can fit 4 plates in at a time. The other issue is if you're doing some odd sizes other than 4x5, for example 9x12, and yeah, I know in Europe it's not that odd, but well, even in Europe it's becoming a bit more odd. It's certainly odd over here. And if you're doing any other sizes, the tray is going to be a lot easier to adapt than the tank probably will be. But maybe the biggest reason is the cycle time, or how fast you can move through tankfuls of film. With the tank, you need to wait until the film holders are completely dry before you try to reload them. And that just means you may need an extra set of film holders, or you're going to wait until you have some way, blow hot air on them and get them dried off. With the tray, the way it's set up, all you have to do is rinse it out well, drain it, and then wipe it down with a rag or a paper towel and get it basically dry. It doesn't have to be completely dry, and you can reload it and get going again. So those are some things to consider about the differences between the tank and the tray. Now, as far as loading, I'm going to go over this again just in case you haven't seen our older videos. For 8x10, you're going to want all of these hold down tabs in place, and note there's a difference. The center tabs, wow, that's pre-production, they don't have part numbers on them. Yeah, here's one with the part number on it. You probably can't see it, but this has a part number. It starts with a C. That's the center tab. It's got 2 inclined edges to it. You do not want to get them mixed up because it will scratch your film. So make sure you've got the single incline on each end. Then to load the film, just take your film, emulsion side up. I like to taco it for just 8 to 10 seconds, drop it in place, and then you can put the lid on and you're ready to go. Now, the reason I taco it like that is it adds just a little bit of a curve to the film. So when I add the PreSoak, it will get underneath the film a little faster and a little more efficiently. I've done it both ways. I've forgotten to do it, and frankly, I haven't seen any difference. So it's not a super critical step. Loading 5x7. Here you must use, I'm going to back up here a second while I do this. You can process 8x10 without any hold down tabs. I've done it several times, and the surface tension and the design of the tray, I've gotten great results. If all you're doing is 8x10, you can get by without the hold down tabs. Go ahead and experiment and see how it works for you. If you're doing that without the hold down tabs, I would recommend using the full 500 milliliters of chemistry, just in case you get a little aggressive in your agitation or things kind of float up a little bit. But it is certainly doable. Now, for 5x7 and 4x5, you have to have the hold down tabs because you need to keep the film separated. Loading the 5x7, find the front edge and drop one sheet up against that front edge. Then, and of course you're doing this in the dark, so you got to find this back edge and do the same thing. Make sure that you can feel these holes, these little recessed holes here in the pockets in the middle. And then you put the film on, or put the lid on, and you'll hear the film sliding around in there. Now for 4x5, this gets a little bit trickier, but as I said, it's probably a little easier than the tank. Again, that's a subjective call. You'll have your sheets of film, and what you'll want to do, you don't want to do this. You don't want to load two sheets into one section of the tray. Don't ask me how I know that can happen. I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, what I've learned to do is I'll find these two holes right here in the middle, and I'll start clockwise, and I'll put one sheet above it, upper right, then I'll put the next sheet lower right, then I can go around and do lower left, and then I'll go around and put it in the upper left. And by going in that pattern, it ensures that I'm not double loading one section, and by holding on to those pockets, those recessed holes, I know that when I put the lid on, these tabs aren't going to contact the film. So you can put that on, and there you're ready to go. Now, let's talk a little bit about the whole pre-soak idea. This has nothing to do with preparing the film for processing. Well, except for color. You know, color you're going to want to pre-soak. But the purpose is to get the film wet so it will stay flat when you add the developer. And the reason it's staying flat, when film gets wet, even if it's got an old curve, you know, it's old film and it's got a curve to it, as soon as it gets wet, it's going to go flat. And the surface tension on the back of the tray, the bottom of the tray, is going to hold it flat as you add the developer. Now, we've had some questions from people who've asked, well, you know, Rev 4, we put that texture on the Rev 4 tank film holders because the film wouldn't stick to it, and yet here we're putting that, and if you could see this up close, you'd see it's the same texture pattern. You're putting the texture on the bottom of the tray so the film will stick. Well, here's the difference, and I may upset some physicists with this, but that's too bad. Basically, there is no surface tension underwater, under a liquid surface. This is why if you're walking along the beach, you're walking in dry sand, you're going to be sinking in. If you go out even ankle deep into the water, you're going to sink in to the sand. But if you're walking on the wet, smooth sand, you're not as likely to sink in because the water molecules are holding the sand particles, the sand grains together, and will support you. Well, we're using that same trick here. When the tray is full of water or the tank is full of water, there's no surface tension between the film and the holder. So that allows things to move around a little bit, allows liquid to get behind the film, allows the film in the tray to slide back and forth, which is what we want it to do. However, as soon as you drain it, as soon as you lift this up and drain the film out, or drain the water out, the film is going to stick to the bottom of the tray. So when you add the next chemistry, your next liquid, the film is going to be stuck down and the liquid will flow right on over the top of it. So let's talk a little bit about filling this, and I might as well go ahead and do that. Now for pre-soak, I'll use, you know, a good liter or more of liquid, it doesn't matter. I'm tilting the back of the tray up just a little bit, and the reason I'm doing that, and I'm going to start agitating right away, the reason I tilted that up is so the water will flow over the surface of the film more evenly. Now that's probably a little more important when you're pouring the developer in. I have forgotten to tilt it and I haven't seen any difference. That may turn out to be a myth as we develop more, as we collect more data on the whole thing. Now, when it comes to agitation, you can see what I'm doing. I'm kind of what I call a gold panner. I guess it's silver panning. You know, I'm holding the tray snugly in each hand and just sloshing it around. And we don't recommend continuous agitation because continuous agitation And when I say continuous, I mean for the whole development cycle. For the pre-soak, it doesn't matter. But we don't want to see continuous agitation because you're going to get turbulent flow around those film holders or the hold down tabs, and you might see a shadow on your negative. So intermittent agitation there. The other way people agitate is what I call the tipsters. They'll just lift the front up and let it down. You know, they'll do that 5 times every 30 seconds or whatever, or they'll tip it sideways and just let it down. Some people will go front to back, you know, the first 30 seconds of the first agitation, and the next cycle they'll go side to side. You'll have to experiment and see what works best for you. Now, you might get away with continuous agitation. We've had people ask, with 8x10 and no film hold down tabs, you might get away with the continuous agitation. We haven't tried that. Now, as far as draining it, just hold the lid down and pour it out. And washing, I'm just refilling it here. I prefer to wash with leaving the lid on, especially for 4x5. It keeps the negatives from sliding into each other. And a lot of times, and we're still experimenting with some different wash philosophies. One option is you can, this is a scrap of plastic that I'll use mainly when I'm doing 8x10. I'll put it down in the sink and just hold up the back of the tray a little bit, let water run in and just run through, you know, if I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to have to monitor it. Most of the time, what I'll do is I'll fill this with about 1 liter of water, shake it around for 15-20 seconds and let it sit for a minute or so, and refill, reshake, and just keep doing that about usually about 7 cycles, and it seems to be coming out really clean. You'll need to do your own testing and see how that works out for you. One other little warning, when you're done, I'm going to dump this out, and you're going to see film is stuck down there nicely, but one of the things you'll want to do when you're done is wash the top of the bottom of the lid, or the underside of the lid, I guess it is. I had done a lot of 5x7 and 4x5 testing and wanted to convert this back to 8x10, and I found these were stuck. What had happened is enough chemistry had gotten up underneath between the hold down tab and the lid that it kind of glued the hold down tabs in place. And just leaving it in, you know, leaving it upside down, filling it with hot water for 3 or 4 minutes, and it was all fine. But it's best just to rinse that off as soon as you're done. So that's our latest update on the 8x10 tray. If you've got questions or comments, be sure to send them our way.